Alrighty. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah. Amma ba'd. Jazakumullah khair to each and every brother for coming back, for being here and participating in what we hope and pray is written down in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as an endeavor to get closer to Him Azza wa Jal. That said, we'll start with just a bit of a recap of what we've covered so far. So last week, or the last time that we were together, we had talked about, who can remind me? I know there's some new faces and there's some old faces. So what did we discuss? What did we cover last time that we were together? So I'm looking at the brothers who were here last time, inshallah. Yes, Zain.
We talked about the effect of reminders. And that was the difference between I think seeking knowledge more or less long term rather than reminders. And I think the Imam gave an example of a whiplash.
Beautiful.
That he said the effect of it stays as long as the lash kind of hits as well. So trying to keep that momentum going after the reminder as believers. Whereas when we just have motivation one time, then we go and we lose it kind of thing.
Very good. Yes.
Something along those lines.
Very good, alhamdulillah. So what that chapter covered, what we were hoping to walk away with is, as the esteemed author highlights through that example of a whip and the lash of that whip and its impact is only as much as how long that pain is felt. And all of life effectively comes down to how much attention we pay to that impact. And so what we were hoping to walk away with last time, and we're going to build from there today, inshallah, is where our thoughts take us. How much attention we give to those thoughts, and based upon that attention that we give to said thoughts, our life tends to flow in that direction. So the impact of the reminder that we hope to benefit from today and through these sittings will only be as strong as our ability to stay aware of what we learn going forward, inshallah. And so for today's purposes, and then I'll hand it over, we are hoping to better understand, now that we have a bit of working knowledge on what attention is and how attention fatigue is real and how attention residue is real, how we can now take that awareness and turn it into the correct lenses, and why that's necessary for us to be able to maintain the grounded perspective as believers in this day and age who are constantly bombarded with nothing but attention-grabbing opportunities that most of the time are calling against what your fitra wants from you. Okay. Stage set, Bismillah, we will begin. So we are on chapter 16. So for the brothers who have access to it, you're welcome to pull it up. For the brothers who don't, you're welcome to ask one of the two brothers in the back to join the group. And once you're in the group, you'll have the PDF that was shared there, inshallah. What is this called? LM? LP? This room?
What's this room called? LB?
LB, yes.
LB.
LB. Okay.
What's the page number?
99. Chapter 16. Chapter 16, 99. Okay. Okay. So, As we begin the read, again, the key ask in terms of reflection for each and every one of us is, how do we relate to the content that we are engaged with? What does it mean for me personally in my life? Okay, inshallah. And that'll make the experience a lot more richer. Bismillah. All right, so chapter 16, the author says, do not grieve for what you have not been given. When I thought of the life conditions of respected men, I noticed that often most of them were not given a good share of worldly pleasures, whereas in most cases, worldly pleasures are given to disesteemed people whose characters are defected.
الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله وسلم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين وبعد. We ask Allah to allow us to benefit from the knowledge. So we're taking snippets from the captured thoughts of Ibn Jawzi rahmatullahi ta'ala. And here he is speaking about a general phenomena that he's noticed. He says, generally speaking, the people of good character, of high virtue, are those who have not been given massive amounts of the world. And the people of lowly character are those who have been given great amounts of the dunya. So off the bat, the Shaykh is making an observation about the world. People with a lot of money generally have pretty bad character. And for some reason, people of high character tend to be those who don't have much. This is just an observation he's making about the world. And then he's gonna he wants to break that down a little bit more.
Yeah. So notice how I mentioned at the start that I want all of us to reflect in the way of what is central to my life. How am I relating to what's being what we're learning together? So the big question that I'm reflecting over, and I encourage each and every one of you brothers to reflect over, is what is the central theme of my life that I have put as the lens upon which I operate? And is it one of lack or is it one of gratitude? So the question, again, what is the central theme of my life right now, presently, that occupies my mind, that captures my attention, that focuses my thoughts? Is it one of a lack or is it one of gratitude? Okay. So I'm going to continue in the book. So the Shaykh says, then I noticed that some of those respected men self-rebuke themselves over what they do not have, yet is found in the possession of those disrespected ones, to the extent that some of them may go into extreme sorrow due to that. I conversed with some of those who grieve over what they do not have and said, woe to you! Should you have contemplated your affairs, you would have realized that you are mistaken from many aspects.
Okay, so again, he's also making a second observation, which is people of virtue, when they look at all the other people who've been given so much more of the dunya, they might regret not having more. They might feel like there's something missing, and they might express that. And so he's saying, have you never thought that you're absolutely wrong by going down this path of thought for the following reasons?
First, if you have any interest in achieving anything in this life that is attainable and within your capacity and power, then you should take the means to achieve it. Only then will you overcome such a disturbing feeling. Otherwise, being inactive and unhappy about not having what others have, though you are capable of having it, is an ultimate weakness from your side.
Right. So the Shaykh is saying, look, just because you have good virtue, good character in life, does not now mean that you have the right to sit about and complain about how you weren't able to make more, or how you weren't able to have more of the dunya because you didn't strive to that level. You can't say, oh, I'm virtuous, I'm a good person, but you know what? I'm not going to put in the struggle to get what other people have, yet at the same time, I'm going to complain about not having it. These two things cannot occur together. The only way that you can find escape from your own sorrow is by getting up to do the work. If you sit there and wallow about what you don't have while you didn't put in enough work, this is the very definition of self-imposed incapability. It is a self-imposed handicap. So the Shaykh is saying, if your heart says, if I feel like I wasn't able to make it in life, then you have to look at what you're not doing. So that's the first thing.
So, as a form of making this practical, the question that I put out, and you're welcome to answer in a broad stroke or take it on personally, share as a collective amongst the brothers, or walk away with it. But the question is this: how does my grief over what I believe I don't have distort my perception of life? How does my grief, sadness, sorrow, pain over what I believe I don't have in my life distort and change the way I look at life? Bismillah.
I think it makes you less thankful of the things that you do have in life. Something that you might have that you could take for granted. For example, being in the West, having the opportunities that people in the other side of the world don't necessarily have. Or for example, the fact that we have sight. A lot of people are blind, or that we have good hearing. A lot of people can't listen to things, or that we can eat, we can use the washroom. We take a lot of these things for granted.
100%. Beautiful. That's a beautiful answer. And that goes to the fundamental, right? That goes to the basic, not just anatomy, but the basic form of the human being. Every human being has to go through these experiences on a daily basis. And the vast majority of us take them for granted because there's so many people that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through His infinite wisdom has not given those abilities to. So that's a beautiful example. Yes?
So what you're saying basically it reminds me of this one dua. I basically learned that dua based on seeing somebody in a bad situation. But that dua became kind of a reminder for me, and it allowed me to view the other people and my own opportunities and my own facilities in life a lot more broadly. And I think you might know this. It's Alhamdulillah alladhi afani mimma ibtalaka bihi wa faddalani ala kathirin mimman khalaqa tafdila.
Beautiful.
Right? This, and it says, all praises for Allah who has protected me from what He has afflicted you with and has greatly favored me over many of His creation. And just knowing and actually understanding this one dua has opened my eyes to how many times a day I can actually see somebody and apply this dua on.
Beautiful.
And the sheer counter of that is countless, right? And that just tells me how much I'm favored and how much I have been blessed with.
Beautiful.
So, subhanAllah, we're talking about like the cures of this situation, but the situation that we're finding ourselves in is learned helplessness. That because I've gone through something in life, or because I wasn't given something was taken away from me, an opportunity, a situation, that now I have learned to be helpless. I can never break out of this. This is who I am now. So these are the few of the things that we spoke of, like, number one, taking for granted what you have, and furthering that, not looking at what you have, or just thinking, yeah, that's just there. Sure, that's there, but how about what I don't have? So your eyesight becomes very much tunnel visioned upon what you do not have, and everything else becomes insignificant. And so, subhanAllah, when you do that, Allah starts to take more and more away. And a lot of this has to do with you feeling like you're rebelling against Allah internally.
And I think every brother can kind of relate to the. I mean, I think no one is an exception to the following. What's being discussed right now. We all have moments in time, snippets of time, where our focus is so skewed, and we can see that, hey, you know what, this isn't moving in the way that I need it to. This matter could be any regular, mundane affair of life.
It could be you didn't get the girl you wanted to marry. You didn't get the job you thought you should have gotten. You know, it could be all sorts of different things. You know, you feel like you let down your parents, right? You name it, right? It's just anything in life, right?
So it comes back to the basic point of, is my fixation so strong on those things that I feel like I am lacking? So much so that it prevents me from being able to be present in this moment. Because in this moment, the dua that was just shared allows me to recognize the infinite blessings that make up me.
I think there's that thing, right, like about abundance mindset and scarcity mindset.
Yep.
So if you're coming to a situation with a scarcity mindset that this is all I have, and I don't have anything else here, I have nothing else going for me, I'm a useless bum, or, you know, I'm unsuccessful, I'm a failure, I'm this, I'm that, then naturally speaking, that is going to show in your performance.
So they've done a lot of research on this. If you look at the psychology of the man, and then the creation of the emotion that's attached to that psychology, it spells this out wonderfully. It's scary, but it's also very exciting. So when you look across the board, the vast majority of people who are able to hold because there are the two opposites. One is the scarcity where you are constantly worried, and the other is, I have enough, I am more than enough. So abundance, scarcity, okay. If you look across the board.
So you can call that shukr and kufr, right? So one is gratitude, constantly seeing more in your life. And then there's kufr, which is constantly hiding the goodness that Allah has given you and rejecting it.
So the kufr is upon, you don't have to be an unbeliever to be in that boat of, it's kufran and ni'mah, upon the things that Allah has blessed you with. Does that make sense, brothers? Are we all together on that? It's not necessarily, I don't say La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. You say that verbally, but what is this awareness of your knowledge and your belief doing for you? So again, the abundance from that, just if we just look at, and you would know, I think most of the brothers are aware, we use these neuroscience and psychology and these scientific advancements as a reinforcement for what the Quran and Sunnah has given us. It's not, we use that to amplify where we are. Yes, we may perhaps at certain times, but it's not the foundation. The Quran and Sunnah is the foundation
of ultimate truth and reality. And these things can either further make it further show it to be truth, or we would reject it if it goes in opposition to it.
So what is that abundance that we want to live to? When you look across the board, any domain, any background, without exception, business, family, jobs, material, dunya, success. What it boils down to is one simple yet powerful ingredient. Abundance equals I don't stop moving. Abundance equals I don't stop moving. So I found myself in some sort of a situation. Name it, right? We'll use some of the examples as young brothers. I was trying to get married. I'm trying to be halal. I'm trying to live to the Quran and the Sunnah. I really want to be the best and anchor myself. I'm trying my best. And I had a sister, and it was really like it made lots of progress, and families were involved, and things really made headway. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decreed for some reason or the other that the whole situation fell apart. Naturally, the human experience, part of the human experience is going to say, this sucks, this is painful, this is hard. No one's saying deny that experience. That's not what shukr is, right? There's a big problem, a misconception, let's say, that part of what is generally woven is when you acknowledge or you don't acknowledge the pain, is you being grateful. That's not how Islam has presented it to us. And now the science is, again, reinforcing this truth. What does that mean practically? We'll just stick to this example so that we can come back to, because there's many examples to be taken. When that happens, you acknowledge the pain. You recognize that you're going through this difficulty, that it sucks, it's hurtful. I had a whole vision in life. I had spent 10 months trying to secure this reality, move forward.
I had thought of how life would look, children, marriage, where we would live. I had this entire fantasy in my mind, because that's usually what guys do, right? When it comes to girls. And then what happens? It all flatlines, right?
And so again, there's so many places to go with this. When you give yourself that permission to acknowledge that, in that moment, automatically, and again, this is scientific, but forget the science, your feeling goes back to what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us. When you acknowledge that, automatically Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will open, inshallah, for all of us, in that moment of difficulty, He opens that window. It's like a ray of hope, a ray of sunshine. Right? It may not be huge, it may not be like gigantic, it may just be a little bit, but you'll feel it. You'll see it. And that's the emotional connection to what? Where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, what's the ayah? لَإِن شَكَرْتُمْ لَأَزِيدَنَّكُمْ. And the ending portion of that also highlights the disbelief of what it is to be ungrateful. And tell the brothers, what's the translation of this?
And if you're, in this case, would it be like if you're not thankful?
If you're not holding to that ni'mah, to the blessing of being able to recognize what Allah has given you. That recognition itself is from the guidance that we seek from Allah. Does that make sense, brothers?
Okay, so let's bring the conversation back in.
Yeah.
And let's talk about, why do you feel like in life that you haven't achieved anything and you feel like a loser? What makes you feel like that today? And just let's talk about that. Like where does this come from? What makes you experience feeling like a failure in life?
I think a lot of it could be when you're on social media, for example, and you see people your age doing so much better for themselves, and there's this element of comparison where you compare yourself to them. You're like, I could be this person, I could be doing so much better. And then, they say comparison is a thief of joy.
Yeah.
You just fall for that, and you're constantly in this cycle of negativity.
Yeah. Online, these influencers making it seem like they have their camera set up. I woke up at 4 a.m. in the morning, okay? And then what happened? I took my electrolytes, and then I hit the gym. Then I came back, and then I had my shake. Yeah. And after that, and then God knows when, and then this is my perfect life. And you get what I'm trying to say? And then you're just sitting there like, I woke up at 1 a.m. today, And I'm scrolling through this, and I'm like, wait, what's happening with my life, So definitely, the fake influencer life that people want to show you online can definitely take away the happiness that one will feel in the joy of going through the small things in life, right?
We've got yes.
So when you mentioned obviously that you talk to a camera and then you're like, okay, so I did this, right? But don't you think it could be an effective method of self-accountability?
No, that's fine. But I'm talking about when you look at these people online and they make it look like they have a camera perfect, picture perfect lifestyle, right? When they don't, nobody does. Nobody has a picture perfect lifestyle. Everyone has flaws. But but what they make you perceive is that they don't. And that really can kill you, where you're like, okay, if I even had a small little thing going good for me today, now I feel like I don't really have much going on at all.
Yeah.
Right? I think that's definitely something that takes away. What else? Perhaps, people's standards, other people's, expectations.
Without a doubt.
Can also really bring you down, right?
I think it also builds on the last paragraph that we just read before we paused, right? The Sheikh makes clear that most people, and this is, mind you, like hundreds of years ago. Now it's on like steroids, this reality. Most people are very comfortable sitting in whatever their life is. There's no desire to be bigger, better, ambitious, move, take on the unknown, because of the reality of social media.
Yeah, exactly. People are okay saying my life is horrible,
Yeah.
but I'm okay with this because this is what I'm comfortable with. This is what I know.
It's the complaining process that most people have adapted, right? And they've taken that on as some sort of a garment that is comfortable.
And I think what's worse today than before is you consume so much of this motivational self-help type of content online that's just making you feel good in the moment, right? Like before, you could get tired of long form content. You watch a whole movie or you watch a whole series. After a few episodes, you're gonna get tired, right? But now you can keep scrolling from the 30-second to the 30-second, right? And each one will give you some different sort of content. In that 30 seconds, it's only 30 seconds, can turn into hours. And you can repeat that every single day for hours and hours on end. On top of doing long form content. Right? What that makes you feel like at the ending of all that is absolutely useless. Right? So I think a lot of that, like having that little window from your phone,
Yeah.
looking at a fake world, thinking you're looking at reality, it really takes away from the sweetness of the small things in life, right? I'm going to be very honest with you. There have come points where the idea of having a book and reading is more comforting than actually doing it. So we're more invested in aesthetics, in how things look, and the value that brings to us, than how things actually feel when we do them and experience them. And that's kind of the danger of basically being okay with being mediocre. So effectively, the Shaykh is speaking to the idea of do not accept mediocrity for yourself. Push through it every single day, bit by bit. And you have no one to blame except for yourself if you never pushed through. If you never pushed through that trial. Because at the end of the day, if you're not putting in the work, then change will not come. Right?
And he highlights a good point here, right? That capacity and power to bring about the change you seek in your life. Most people in the depth of their heart know that they have that capacity. Allah has built that into you. No one is extraordinarily gifted, right? Illa mashallah, there are exceptions, but the vast majority, if you do the hard work, especially in this day and age, where everyone is looking for ease and comfort and just scroll after scroll and lack of attention and just kind of living in a very sheep-like, zombie-like state, putting in a little bit of work goes a long way today. So most people have that capacity and most people have that power within them, especially when we're young, right? So we as believers have that ownership, and inshallah we're going to build that forward in the coming weeks. What does that ownership mean for us specifically as believers in this day and age to live to that responsibility, inshallah? Okay, I'm going to continue?
Yeah, let's do this.
So second, this life is set so we pass through it and not so we settle down in it, which is a conclusion that is factual enough for your cognition and intellect to accept. Needless to add, the surplus enjoyed by the low lives in reality causes harm to their bodies and religion. Thus, if you know all that, yet are still unhappy for not having what you are better off without, then know that such a concern is indeed a punishment, because you are sad for not having what you know will harm you. Subhanallah. So bear this as your immediate punishment if ever you are saved from the awaiting punishment.
Allahu Akbar. This point is beyond deep. So the first point is أن الدنيا إنما تراد لتعبر لا لتعمر. That this world was intended to pass through, not settle in, not to build it up as if you're going to be here for eternity. So, and you know this by everything you know about life. And the fact of the matter is that it's a lot harder to stay steadfast when you have more. More food. I mean, we experience this so much in developed countries. What happens when you have open access to food? Obesity. We should all be looking at ourselves, you know. And obviously, in your deen, of course, what happens is it takes away from your deen as well, right? You know, it's a good thing to directly look at yourself and, like, you know, think about how, you know, this definitely is a way of yani, it being that of this dunya, when you're given open access to it, what it does, right? Similarly with your deen, the more you have, the more easier it is to walk away. So if you know this, and then you regret and long for that which you know, its absence is more beneficial for you. Because think about it. Who has a greater test? The one who's given more or who's given less? Given more. Who has more potential to do good though? No, the one who has more. So it's a test nevertheless. But also you can do more with it. So a test can be a greater reward as well, right? But it is definitely a lot harder.
Why is it harder? Why do brothers... So let's make this more practical. Let's say Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed each and every one of you, each and every one of us with $1 million tomorrow. Okay, 10 million, doesn't matter. No cap. Okay, there's no limitation. Why is that an actual test? Yes, we'll start here. Let's hear from everyone, inshallah.
Yeah.
Bismillah. Go ahead, Zain.
I think we forget, we attribute the success to ourselves, whereas like if it's like provision or anything, we have to still remember that Allah is the provider, and we ultimately, that's what we kind of forget, I think.
Worship.
100%. So it starts to drive your way of looking at, remember, what are we building? We're building our understanding. Today, the biggest problem is information is everywhere. Anyone can pull up their phone and access millions of documents and wallahu alam, yes? So there's no lack in that. The problem is, as young Muslim men living in the West, the problem is being able to relate with what is the fundamental truth of life in a way that actually lets us live life to that truth. Does that make sense, brothers? That's what we're trying to really understand.
I mean, if we were to rephrase that,
Yeah.
it would be self-worship. So what starts happening is you think that it's all me. I did this, so it's a lot easier to move into, this is my success. No, man, this is Allah Azza wa Jalla who gave it to you. And wallahi, this is one of the biggest issues with the vast majority of people who even have a little bit of success.
Yeah.
Like, if only you did what I did. If only you did it the way I told you. Look, you would have been this successful. So subhanallah, they don't think that it was that Allah used this as a means. This could have very well not have been success, but it turned into success. And it was Allah who gave it. So what starts happening? It's this self-deluded idea that I am in control. I have power. I am worthy. And the higher up you go, the worse it gets.
So this has to be put in perspective. That we're talking about dunya. And we know that the dunya in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is worth nothing. Less than nothing. Okay. Let's look at the opposite. In the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who are the greatest of people? The prophets and messengers of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. After them, the awliya, the list goes on. Yes? Okay. So, tell us the ayah from the Quran where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala singles out the awliya and what the conclusion of that state is. Can you think about that? So, in subhanallah. Awliya, the conclusion of their reality. So I'll tell you in English. No, not that one. The one where.
What are you looking for?
Where indeed the scholars of the deen are the ones who have the greatest fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
إِنَّمَا يَخْشَى اللَّهَ مِنْ عِبَادِهِ الْعُلَمَاء. That verily it is the ulama that have true khashya, true knowing and awe of God in life and fear. And so that naturally means what, like knowledge isn't just that which you know, knowledge is that which changed you, right? Which transformed you. So the point that here is being made is that if you know that this is that which would have harmed you and the lack of it is of a benefit for you, again, Allah Azza إِنَّ اللَّهَ يَبْسُطُ الرِّزْقَ لِمَنْ يَشَاءُ مِنْ عِبَادِهِ وَيَقْدِرُ لَهُ. That Allah Azza wa Jal has ordained what you are supposed to be given. And He has destined it. He knows what was good for you. وَلَوْ بَسَطَ اللَّهُ الرِّزْقَ لِعِبَادِهِ لَبَغَوْا فِي الْأَرْضِ. If He had opened the path of rizq upon everyone, they would have transgressed and rebelled. وَلَكِنْ يُنَزِّلُ بِقَدَرٍ مَا يَشَاءُ. But He reveals that which is what He knows what is best for you. I think that knowing is extremely important, especially in a world where the only thing that looks like success is material gain. Wallahi, even religious people or people who come from religious families, the moment it comes down to things of importance like marriage, what are the only things they look at? Material success. That's the only bar that they start looking at. Everything else is fluff on top. That's what becomes the real bar by which people see value, right? And so subhanAllah, you are chasing that which Allah has already ordained. That which is already written for you. So sure, but you're supposed to put in the means the way we just expressed in the first point. But here, the point is, Allah has given you what is good for you. And for you to then continuously feel bad about yourself for not having more or something else is a punishment. It's a punishment because you're just torturing yourself. It's just self-torture. And the last part that the Shaykh says, and this is really deep, this is the point that it gets into a different layer. So we've already kind of stepped 2 layers in.
Yeah.
Right? The first layer was, look, this world is to go through, not to settle in. If you know that and you know that it can harm you, then know that the lack of it, the absence of it was good for you to begin with, right? And then he gets to another level after that. He says, and remember that if you continuously do this, then guess what? It's just self-torture. It's self-imposed. And the layer above that, beneath that, if you want to call it, is that he says, and then remember that when you torture yourself in this world, let it be enough. Let it be enough. Be happy with the fact that you tortured yourself in this world, and that saved you from being tortured in the hereafter. Like, if you feel bad, just remember, this is a lot better than what would be in store in the hereafter if you had gone down a path that Allah knows is not good for you, and you had failed.
So this is the essence of shukr. Just so that we're all clear, this, what is being described, is what gratitude in practice looks like. Okay? So if any of us ever want to reference what gratitude is, it's recognizing that the pain I am experiencing in this dunya, of the dunya, is sufficient to prevent me from the pain that potentially could be. And may Allah protect us all from that.
Amen.
And what that automatically does is it forces us to be grateful for the blessing that I have.
You know, Ibn Rajab rahmallah has a beautiful quote where he says, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves you so much and He wants you at this degree, at this level. But He knows that your actions by themselves are not enough to ever get to this level. And so out of love for you, He puts you through trials so that you may be patient and persevere in that difficulty so that you can get to the level of the saints and the pious. Because your actions were never enough. So out of mercy He tries you so that you may be elevated. And there will be many people in the hereafter. Why do you think that the first people to enter Jannah will be the fuqara and masakin, the destitute and the poor? Because they went through a lot of difficulty which raised their ranks. And they were patient upon.
And that patience, again, is not saying I deny my pain. There's a lot of brothers who walk around going, nope, my pain is either I understand it and it fully makes sense to me, and then I can place it, compartmentalize it, and then move on. That's not how life ever works. You have to accept the pain for what it is, and in spite of the pain, I choose to move forward. So I see you pain, you're real, and it is what it is. I don't have enough money for my kids, I don't have enough money for whatever, I don't have a wife, I don't have schooling, I don't have grades, I don't have work, whatever the problem is.
My health
I'm
is
struggling
gone.
with my health, I have an addiction that I can't break away from, I've been really struggling with XYZ. Pick the human experience, fill yours. Whatever that is, in order for true gratitude to arrive, in order for all of these lessons that we're learning to really be of benefit, it needs to be grounded on this fact. I see you pain, and in spite of you as my pain, I choose to be what? What's the takeaway, boys? What's the runaway word? I choose to be grateful. You cannot be grateful unless you're being patient.
I think over here, another point here is that
Maybe we finish this and then because it
Just-
highlights it.
so just within this point, that difficulty and trial is not senseless. And I think that's one of these points that the Shaykh is making. Your experience of them might feel that way, where I can't make sense of my pain. But pain in and of itself is a very, very high commodity. It's weighed heavily in the scales of Allah. Pain is not empty, it's not senseless. It has moral value. And the pain that people go through in this world is weighed heavy in the scales of Allah if they went through it for His sake.
This point gets grounded on the reality of the human psyche. each and every one of us are meaning-making machines. Each and every one of us, we have to make meaning out of every experience of life, pain and otherwise. In the interest of time, I won't build that point out further. We'll continue so we can get the chapter done, inshallah. So the third point that the Shaykh highlights is, you know that in general, the proportion of humans' enjoyment and share of worldly pleasures is minimal compared to the enjoyment and share of animals. This is because, contrary to the case of humans, animals receive larger quantities without enduring the troublesome or worrying about losing any of it. Thus, when your share of worldly pleasures is doubled, it would put you in a similar position of animals, since this will distract you from seeking good, virtuous deeds. The fewer loads a person carries in this life, the more a person is encouraged to seek a higher rank with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That being the case, if you are still after worldly pleasures despite your knowledge that humans' share of worldly pleasure is little, then you must know that you have been mocked for, okay, let's go back. So, that being the case, if you are still after worldly pleasures, despite your knowledge that humans' shares of worldly pleasure is little, then you must know that you have mocked the facts you know, and so insulted your own intellect, and proved that you are a confused person.
These points are very deep, subhanAllah. I think I want you guys to have a conversation with one another for at least a minute regarding the following point. What does it mean here? Like, what is the Shaykh trying to say when he says that the blessings or the worldly share is greater for the beast, for the cattle, than it is for the human being? So just take a minute to discuss with one another, what is the Shaykh trying to say here? What does it mean for the beast's share of the world being greater than the human being? Read it and talk with one another. Go ahead, take 2 minutes, inshallah.
Yeah.
What is he referring to as beasts? Like
Any
animals.
Any animal. So just turn to one another in groups of 2 or 3.